Hi Lucy, so here we have a first pass at your nursery. Now, a first pass, what do I mean by that? This is how I get you to try and understand the space the way I understand the space, and obviously if I've got anything wrong about the space, a chance to point that out. So I've done some initial thinking. I've got some ideas. I'm just going to hide that door, but let's just look at this basic structure that I've put in, and I want you to ignore all of this for now. We've kind of got a grid. I've done 45 centimetre verticals because that fits in with a lot of the standard components, like the gliding components here, but it's also a really nice fit along that wall. I mean, that little bit of room there, that's just a bonus, and your dimensions were suspiciously rounded up, but that might be the case. It might be exactly 1.8 meters and whatever you said, but anyway, it's a tolerant system, and it's nice to where you can work within the default bay sizes. But also, let's look at what's happening this way. You could argue that we've got a grid with these horizontal divisions as well, and Elfa components can be made to fit into that sort of format. So we talked about a number of things, and all stages of the child's life. First thing that occurred to me is where are you changing nappies, if we're still in nappies. I wouldn't think twice about changing a nappy on an appropriately made board with Elfa metalwork underneath it there. Now that has to be your decision, but it's something to think about. We could make that board deeper, and although I've shown a division here, you could have splits and divisions anywhere along this. So again, we're sort of back to this grid idea. If you wanted a board that went from there to there, or there to there, we could do that. If you want the board up here, if you don't want any boards at all. But I thought maybe it would be useful to start with some kind of nominal surface. And sorry for jumping around, I'm used to that. I know other people find it a bit annoying. Let me just, so here's the pattern of gliding baskets underneath. Now let me just, if we just randomly, not randomly, into the territory of a dull video here if I don't decide quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to hide those two. Where's that one? It's that fella there. Okay, so let's hide that one as well. And let's hide those three. Bear with me. Bear with me, Lucy. I'm just kind of stretching the limits of what's practical to show somebody on a video. Okay, so that's right. So what I was trying to show there is, again, this idea of a grid. Now immediately you can start to see there how that starts to take the shape of a little desk. Now that could be here, it could be here, it could be one basket wide, it could be 3 baskets wide. It doesn't make any difference. And these boards, what I'm suggesting there, again, it's just an idea. I'm not saying these boards are critical to the design, but these could be deeper and they could be any width or length. I've shown Elfa wire shelves up here because it's quick and inexpensive, but if you wanted a different look, we could use solid melamine shelves up here as well. I don't use Elfa's own melamine, it's absolute garbage. These are bespoke made, white faced and edged, moisture resistant MDF. It's a absolutely bulletproof product. You know, you could put baby wipes, you could have a nappy spill, you know, this is a super tough material. You know, the ones I've got in my house now, they're getting covered in makeup and all sorts of stuff that we easily just wipe off. So all of the things your kid's going to get up to, that product is going to be up to it. The same applies to, you know, the shelves here. Let's just, I'm randomly picking one and I'm going to hide that. So again, we're starting to give a different look to this layout. It's a grid, and any of these modules we can pick and say, I want a hanging there, I want a basket there, I want a shelf there. So when you get the 2D drawing of this, what I suggest you do is, in fact, I could even print these out at A2 for you and drop them over to you, and then you can actually scribble onto the drawings and work through some ideas with how you think this might look. Also, before I go back to shelves, I just wanted you to see, I did look at an alternative bed position, and my thing that kind of works. Oh, this is what you've shown on your sketch, isn't it, with the bed in this orientation. Now the reason why I didn't do that is because, to my mind, this wall, it's got a membrane or something behind it. You're never going to be able to use that wall. So I think my thinking was to have the bed up against that wall long term, and then that gives you options in this area here. Let's just get rid of that. You know, open to persuasion there, it's your house. That's my thought though. I also did a brief think about, could Elfa be part of a nightstand? Trying to do an L shape in any shelving system is a bit of a hiding to nothing, but they just never really work. You end up with a dead corner that you can't really get to. So I think, in fact, actually, I think I've got a little, yes I have. Where's my little nightstand model? Nope. Okay, I will put that in when we're off camera. So let's get back to here. I'm going to just go into a section view briefly, and I'm going to go out of transparent mode here, so it's starting to look a bit more like how it would actually look there. Yeah, this is a basket shelf. It's basically a wire shelf like this, but it has 100mm approximate upstand. It also can be supplied with these transparent end caps, which can be used as end caps and divisions within the shelf. I've got clients who have found these really useful for sportswear and things like that, and it's going to be, you know, imagine, you know, you've got your tiny little, if you had another division just there, getting all your little baby booties or something in there, all your little vests, you know, it's really easy to just grab this stuff, throw it into a separated area. You could even use this for nappies, your nappy sand, tissues, all of that kind of gear. Put divisions in here and it really gets that stuff nicely organised. I have clients that use these for lots of household cleaning products as well, because the divisions can be used to just sort of contain things a little bit. There is that's a 18cm basket, that's a 28cm basket. Because these are going to be on display, I would only use the mesh here. You could use the wire, it's just not quite as pretty. and I do not favour the Elfa product with a draw front on it. I used them with a client when they first came out. They warp, they don't sit straight, they're an absolute disgrace in my opinion, and I do not recommend them to clients. What else was I talking about? Maybe we're done. Yeah, the only other thing is the hanging rail. You know, that hanging rail that could carry straight on through there. If you wanted really low level hanging for, I've got a child's coat there, I'll show that on a later version down here, but you know, because the system is adaptable, one of the most obvious things you could do is you could start with your hanging rail here for your tiny clothes, and as the clothes get bigger you just move everything up and you move your rail up until we're into more grown-up clothes, and then we get into teenagers where we're going to need, now I'm going to show you a quick little thing here. Let's grab that and we'll go and extend it down that way, and we're going to do 1100 standard waist height. So as we get older we're turning this into a proper wardrobe bay, and we'll be getting rid of these and moving these up here. We could replace that for a much more substantial desk, and you know, you've got your home workstation. There are pegboards and pin boards that you could put in here for, you know, pens, revision, all that kind of stuff, you know. So really great to get in this early with a child's room and talk about what could be done. By the time they get to our age they'll be sick to death of it and they'll never want to see it again. So I'm going to turn this back to the standard grid where I started, do you some 2D printouts, and then you can start to work into it and give me your ideas. Okay, thanks for listening.